Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to another edition of Doctor to Doctor in the chat room. I am so happy to have you guys back with me another Saturday as we discuss relevant topics that impact our communities and our world. And I am really, really happy because I have a tag team person here with me today. We're going to be tag teaming this thing. She has come on board, Dr. Nicole West. You heard her just a couple of weeks ago, and you're going to hear from her again today. But first, as always, I ask you guys to stay safe. Please use those necessary precautions to stay safe, as in wearing your mask, double up if you can do that. Make sure that you're getting your vaccines. You can go to tn.gov and just search for vaccines, COVID-19 vaccines in your area and find out where you can go. They're on full rollout. If you think that you have been exposed to the virus, make sure that you get tested. And if you don't know where to go to get tested, just contact your local health department and they can steer you in the right direction as to where you need to go to get tested. Make sure that if you can avoid it, don't congregate in large crowds. Let's just stay safe. We want to keep everybody safe. People are still contracting this virus. Although we are still looking good in terms of our numbers. I'm going to ask my tag team if she'll go ahead and see if she can pull up and see where we are currently, just in the U.S. overall, and see how these numbers are looking. But I know that things are looking a lot better than they were even at the end of 2020. But we still want you guys to be safe, please. And I want you to go ahead and start accessing the Facebook page for Doctor to Doctor in the chat room. Go there and let Dr. West and I know what kinds of things you'd love to hear us talk about. Or, maybe when we're back in the studio, when we've kind of gotten a little farther past this COVID-19 virus, we'll be back in the studio live and you guys can call in and give us some comments and ask questions. But we'd love to hear from you and the types of things that you would love to hear about. We have a very, very interesting topic coming up for you today that I think you're going to enjoy, and I think you're going to find it relevant, whether it's in your personal life or a friend that you know. I think many of us have been impacted in some way or the other. Did you find any of those numbers, Dr. West?
I did. So it looks like as of today, so we've got as of May 12th, which is yesterday, I'm sorry.
Yesterday?
There were 89 new cases, and our 7-day average is about 129
That's way down.
cases. Yeah.
That's
So,
way down.
yeah. So,
A ways to go.
yeah, absolutely. We still need to keep wearing those masks. And I think that I just got an email yesterday from my son's school that said that they are going to now follow the Shelby County health department, which I think is making masks non-mandatory or optional. And
Yeah.
that's a little scary to me, but I'm going to still fine. My son's going to still wear his. I encourage everybody to just ride it out until we, get where we need to be.
Yeah, well, thank God it's not something that they can mandate, that we don't wear them. You know what I'm saying? So it is optional.
Yeah.
And so we just want to encourage everybody to do what you need to do to stay safe and keep those around you safe, because people are still getting sick from this virus. And, hospitals are still having overload in their cases because people are sick with other things, not just COVID. So be safe, people. Be safe. Dr. Nicole, I know you were here a couple of weeks ago. Thank you for agreeing to come on board and tag team with me on Doctor to Doctor in the chat room. Since you're back again, and maybe there's some folks that don't remember, and you don't have to, since you're going to be here on this platform with me, you don't have to do this anymore, but I just love for you to just give one more round of who is Dr. West. And so our audience know who they're going to have with us every week.
Okay, sure. So as Dr. Shaw said, my name is Nicole West. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I meet a lot with kiddos, do some play therapy. I do some couples counseling, some family counseling as well. And I have a PhD in counseling. And I'm relatively new here to Memphis. Well, I've been here about 4 years, so I guess I'm not new anymore, but sometimes it still feels that way, but I'm
Yeah.
very excited to be here. So thank you for asking me to come along this journey with you.
Absolutely. I'm happy to have you. You are my friend. Are my forever friend, and I love you much. So an interesting topic we've got here today.
Yes, very.
That's
Dive right on into it.
dive right on into it. I was listening to Dr. Romney not long ago. You kind of hooked me on to her, and she was saying that people are starting to use the terms narcissistic abuse. And she prefers to call it antagonal relational abuse as
Yeah.
opposed to narcissistic abuse. So, if you guys haven't guessed it, we're going to be talking about narcissistic behavior, which I would say, and Dr. West she's the expert here, can correct me if I'm wrong. I kind of think that kind of falls in the mental health category, not just from the perspective of the narcissist, but also from the perspective of the impact that the narcissist has on those folks that interact with them.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And so, when we think about narcissistic personality disorder or people with narcissistic traits,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll tell you, even being in the mental health field for a long time, I held this diagnosis or these traits. Um, I had a very limited view of them. I thought someone who was narcissistic was just a person who, bragged a lot, had an overflated sense of self, needed a lot of compliments. But it is so much more than just that.
Well, you know what? And I want to insert this here. And it's one of the reasons is because of how loosely the term has been used over time, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I mean, because let's say, for instance, that I did something that a narcissist would do. And somebody might say, she's just acting like a narcissist, or she's being a narcissist. I like the being a narcissist as if a narcissist could decide if they want to be that or not. Yeah.
Right. That it's not like an ingrained part of their personality, which
Sure.
it absolutely is.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so we have talked. You're right. We've thrown that term around a whole lot. But it is more than that excessive need for admiration or that inflated sense of self. Those people who are always bragging, telling you what they've done and where they've been and how awesome they are. I mean, that is one part of it, and that is certainly
but only one.
Right. But then there's other traits that are damaging to the people who are the recipient of them. So disregard for other people's feelings, just having a lack of empathy, not being able to put themselves into the other person's shoes.
Yeah.
That inability to handle any kind of criticism. And so a lot of times they might project their stuff onto you and make you feel like you are the one to blame, or you're the one who's crazy.
Yes.
Or you're the one with the issue. And they do a lot of, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but called gaslighting, which is what they make you doubt your reality. And make you almost question, like, well, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I am the problem. Maybe I am, needing to check myself.
Maybe I'm not thin enough.
Right.
Maybe I'm not good enough.
Hard enough. Yes.
Maybe I'm not enough.
Yep. Exactly. And so it really can be debilitating to people's self-esteem, because it makes you question everything about you that maybe before meeting this narcissist, you just knew you had. And then
you're confident.
Yes, exactly. So it can be, and I think that's why Dr. Romney, who, if y'all have not been introduced to her, she is a guru for everything narcissism.
Yes.
She is on YouTube. She's great. She has really, really quick videos that will explain all of this.
And she's very generous. I mean, she talks about every aspect of it. I mean, and when she could be making money for this, right? She's very generous about the amount of information that she puts out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's a great resource. she will make you, think back into other relationships and be like, oh my goodness, that's what I was experiencing.
Yeah,
And I think that's why we're having this talk today, because people might be in these kinds of situations or relationships, and it doesn't have to be just the romantic relationships.
that's the thing that I think we need to insert here. Doesn't have to be just romantic. It
Right.
could be
Parents, sibling relationships,
a
you know,
boss,
a boss,
a
coworker,
friend, a
yeah,
coworker.
your
Sure.
children, even.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
mean, Dr. Romney says that this these traits are running rampant. She calls it an epidemic. And I
So
think
that's interesting. So I just said to a friend of mine not long ago, could have been you, that I really think there is some type of epidemic. Either that, or because I have learned more about it,
yeah,
I'm recognizing it more. It's
right,
one or the other.
right. And that'll be hard, I think, for us to figure out, because it's the chicken or the egg thing. Did we
Yeah.
not know enough about it before, where it just
Yeah.
flew over our head, or are we just learning more about it now, and now it's apparent to us, and so we can point it out in everybody. But yeah, it's a big deal, and a lot of people are dealing with it, whether they understand that they are or not.
Mhm.
Um, so I
So,
think that's
so here's what she said, and I'm quoting her. Okay, I'm quoting Dr. Romney. She said, it's a person with a pattern and experience where they are in a relationship with someone who is highly conflicted. They are richly antagonistic.
yeah,
They have a sense of entitlement.
yes,
They are egocentric.
yep,
And she said they have a very dysregulated style.
yeah,
She said, so the relationships are usually characterized by dismissiveness,
yep,
invalidation,
mm-hmm,
here's a big word, manipulation,
mm,
as you said, gaslighting, minimization. Think about that minimization piece,
yeah,
where they minimize situations, you know what I'm saying, just to keep it from reflecting on
yep,
them.
yep,
Entitlement, and then she said dysregulated rage, particularly when things don't go their way.
absolutely,
And
yep,
she said over time, if you're in a relationship with a narcissistic person, especially if you don't understand what's happening, then you start to blame yourself. And you start to blame yourself for what they are doing. Maybe it's my fault. Like I said, maybe I'm not nice enough. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough.
yeah,
And then you find yourself exhausted because you're trying to deliver on the
yeah,
impossible ask from the narcissist. And so people who have survived these
right.
situations end up having a specific set of psychological symptoms and problems and challenges.
Yep. It's that whole trying to walk on eggshells to
Yes.
prevent from happening, to prevent saying the wrong thing, to prevent, doing the wrong thing, looking the wrong way, using the wrong body language. I mean, it is exhausting. Like you said, it's like a full-time job when you are trying to always appease this person by making sure that your actions are in line with whatever it is that they want it to be in line with. And that can change by the minute. You could have done something one day and it worked, and then the next day you could be like, I'm going to do the exact same thing, be the exact same way, use the exact same tone, and that could set them off. I mean, so it's exhausting just trying to keep up with the way to be around this person. And like you said, I mean, it can cause anxiety because you just don't know
Yeah.
who to be, when to be. It can cause depression,
Mhm.
PTSD. I mean, all kinds of just psychological distress.
Mhm.
And it's a difficult situation to be in.
So I think you're right. I think there are a few takeaways that I would love for the audience to have today. And one of the main things that I hope that if someone's listening and is involved in a relationship like this. And as you've said, and I just want to reiterate that it doesn't have to be a romantically based relationship. It could be a friend, a child, a parent. It could be a boss. It could be anyone. And if you're in that type of relationship and you are constantly questioning yourself, it's not you. That's the first thing. Because I think when you experience that type of relationship, that's what you ask yourself all the time. Is it me?
Yeah.
When you're really trying to hang on to that little thin thread and hope that the situation will change, you're asking yourself, is it me? You know, should I have done something different? Could I have done something different? Could I have said something different? Could I have made it work?
Right.
You know, and so it's not you. That's one of the things. I want people to understand that, you know, you can recover. You can't change the narcissist,
Right.
but you can recover.
Right.
Yeah. And you know, I just want people to understand that there's help available if you are in these types of relationships too.
Yes, there are various groups that meet, and a lot of them are called narcissistic recovery groups. There are some. If you all have ever been on Meetup, it's an app where they give you a bunch of different options in terms of different groups that you can become involved with.
Mhm.
And there are tons of groups all across the country that meet to talk about their experience of either being with someone who is narcissistic or leaving a narcissistic relationship and just trying to recover and put their lives back together. There are thousands of groups out there. Even if you Google narcissistic recovery group, I promise you will find one, two, three, a number of them in your area, and it will show you just how excessive this is, and how everybody is touched by it. Again, whether you are aware of it or not, we all have somebody in our lives who has some of these traits. But there's a lot of help out there. Just Google narcissistic recovery group, and I promise you will find something in your area. And everybody's meeting virtually these days, so it might be a little bit easier to connect that way. But there is help out there for sure.
Yeah. And if you're listening to us today and it's you, and you realize that some of the things that we're saying is you, there's help for you too.
Yeah.
There's help for you too. And I mean, just the fact, like you said, that there are support groups for this is indicative of the seriousness of it. I think that these are things that we don't necessarily think about, because if you're in it, it has become your norm.
Yes.
Right? And you just you just are looking for ways to survive. What I want us to do before we go to break, I want us to think about kind of breaking down some of those characteristics that you talked about. One of the things that we did not mention when we were kind of giving our own little definition of what narcissists look like, the characteristics, we didn't talk about their need for supply, the narcissistic supply, and what that like simply what that is. And so I want us to get ready to go to break and come back and kind of break down these characteristics. What do they look like? When we say gaslighting, really kind of dive into that. What does it look like? And what is the narcissistic supply? And what happens when they don't get it? And what happens when you're the one that's keeping them from getting it? Let's talk about those things. Let's go to break. Okay. We'll be right back on 94.7 FM. And we're back on 94.7 FM. I am here with my co-host, Dr. Nicole West, and we are talking about narcissistic abuse, narcissistic relationships. Dr. West, let's break down some of the traits that you talked about on the first segment of the show and kind of help the audience to understand what all of these things look like. For example, you talked about gaslighting and, someone that makes you doubt your reality. What kind of does that look like?
So gaslighting, I think, can happen in various forms, but basically what it is and what it looks like is if you are having a conversation with someone and you know for sure that they did X, Y, and Z. Um, a person with narcissistic personality disorder or narcissistic traits will basically deny that that happened. And so you begin to be like, but I know that happened. I was there. I saw it, or I heard you say it. And they can use manipulation and twist words. Well, no, I didn't say that. What I said was this. Or I said that, but I meant this. And you know doggone well what was said and what was meant at the time.
Mhm.
But they have a way with words and twisting things and manipulating the situation that might make you question, well, maybe they didn't mean it that way. And you almost begin to question yourself and what you believe and what your eyes saw, what your ears heard. And after so many times of doing that, sometimes you might even stop asking the question because you already know the answer. It was my fault.
Yeah.
It wasn't their fault.
Yeah.
And you begin to just take that on.
Mm-hmm.
And so gaslighting is really just a form of making you question your own reality. And once you do that enough, you almost don't even need to do it anymore because you already know they're going to blame me and I must be the reason because I'm always the reason that things go wrong or we get into an argument. So if you ever feel like you're starting to wonder, is it me? Like Dr. Shaw was saying earlier, don't personalize it. None of what they do is personal. It is just their way of being, and they don't know anything else. But we those of us who can think logically, we automatically attach it to ourselves. But it is not personal.
So two things that I want to say. The first thing that I want to say is as we go break down these characteristics, if you are in a relationship, romantically based, family relationship, friend relationship, and you see a couple of these traits, that does not mean that that person is a narcissist.
Right.
One or two things that you see, that person just may be, facetious or having something going on at that moment, but that could be just an isolated situation. The other thing that I want to say about the gaslighting is, here's how I always view it. I said, if you're in a relationship with someone, whatever that relationship is, foundation is, and you start to feel the need to record the conversation,
yes,
then you are probably dealing with the narcissist, probably, because you feel like things get twisted every time. Next time I'm going to capture this conversation on tape and I'll be able to prove myself.
Yep. And the crazy thing about that is even if you played their own words for them and said,
that's true.
You hear yourself saying this? They will find something. They will find some way to wiggle out of it. No, you heard that wrong. Or you always take things wrong. Or you always interpret them wrong. And again, that's their way of getting you to take the blame for it.
Yeah.
They are very unlikely to take any blame, to apologize, to say that they were wrong, to take any kind of accountability. They just are not going to do it. They're going to put it back on you, especially if they know you've got a pattern of taking it,
of receiving it. Yeah. And I wonder, is there any research out there that has shown any underlying conditions or situations related to narcissists? We usually find, with certain conditions or illnesses or whatever, that there are usually causes, right? I wonder, has there been enough research about it to even know where it comes from?
Yeah. So I think some of what I have seen is it can be a trauma response. So if you think about trauma, being traumatized as a child, and maybe you had a caregiver who was never available, or you didn't really get to attach to the caregiver. That person was not really there when you cried, when you needed something, you had to fend for yourself. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and there was nobody there to really take care of you. Um, a lot of people who have narcissistic personality disorder or traits are people who have been through trauma, uh,
Mm,
people who have had to survive on their own. They were not, they didn't develop that ability to empathize with other people because nobody empathized with them. When their needs were not met, they never learned how to meet other people's needs because nobody met their own. Um,
mm.
so they just grow up with that kind of mindset. It's me against the world, and that's why they typically are very selfish, and everything that they do is has a motive.
Yeah.
Um, if you feel like they're being nice to you, there's a reason. If they apologize, there's a reason. So they
Yeah.
have grown to be
Manipulation.
yes,
Mm,
yes, and because they had to manipulate in order to get their needs met way back when.
mm-hmm.
So, and there's also some research about people who develop these tendencies because they were just given everything. They didn't have to work for anything or ask for anything. Everything was just there, and so they grew up.
Interesting.
I'm the center of attention, so that's what I want going forward. And anybody who doesn't subscribe to that, they gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's some research that shows that the cause could be either of those two things or both of those things in some people's cases. Um, so when you get into a relationship, I think it's really important to have that conversation. What was your childhood like? Because so
Good
many,
point.
come from a rough childhood and
Mm-hmm.
not get needs met. And that person grows into the adult with the hole in their heart and they're still trying to fill it. But sometimes people with narcissistic personality disorder, the way that they're filling it is to inflict that same pain on other people all the time. The
Yeah,
same pain.
because they don't know how to be concerned about somebody else's. It's all about them. And I mean, and you if you were to say, I was really upset because, well, what you upset? You ain't got no reason to be upset. You ain't got no reason to be sad. You got everything. What they don't see it. They won't allow you to be human.
Right, right. Because they themselves don't feel human is what I've heard from other
Right.
people. They don't feel that human connection that the rest of us had, or they don't need it. And in fact, they kind of push it away. So if
Mm,
you find that you're in a relationship with someone or you're a friendship or whatever, who you might be getting close to, and then all of a sudden they throw some real weirdness in the mix.
to
It's
sabotage.
yes, it is to
Uh-huh.
push you back away. You have gotten too close. We're not doing this. And people might pull away from the relationship. They might start a random argument, uh,
Mm-hmm.
blame you for it. These people, they can't do close contact, close connections. It makes them uncomfortable, um, and they just don't like it. They will avoid it at all costs.
What do you think the grandiose piece is about? They're so grandiose and it's only them. I mean,
Yeah.
the attention should all be about them and no one else. What do you think that is?
So, I think that kind of goes back to those needs not being met early on in childhood,
Mm-hmm.
because when that happens, once you grow and develop enough where you can intellectualize it, it means I wasn't good enough for somebody to come to my aid. I wasn't good enough for people to take care of me. I wasn't valued enough. I wasn't um, important enough to be loved and have my needs met. And so it's a way to overcompensate for that. Their egos are so fragile and they need that constant admiration, that constant, you are amazing, you are awesome, you are the best, you're perfect, you're so good at blah, 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 blah. They need that. And the crazy thing is, it's never enough. It is never enough. You can compliment them until the cows come home and they are still empty. Um, which is another reason why they put people down so much or try to make people feel bad, because that helps that ego somehow in some really twisted, unfortunate way.
Do you think that there is a lot of, I'll say, confusion about narcissistic behavior and even with maybe misdiagnosing things? I mean, for example, um, domestic abuse.
Mm-hmm.
People are being abused and domestically abused, and it's not always necessarily physical. Sometimes it's mental, right? And but it's just labeled domestic abuse
Yeah.
when it's clearly narcissistic
Mm-hmm.
abuse.
Yeah. And I think the thing about our society is, we don't take mental and emotional abuse as seriously as we do physical abuse.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, I
But
mean,
that's the reason I keep these topics at the forefront. I try to move on. You and I have talked about some other fun things we want to talk about, but I try to keep the mental health stuff at the forefront because we don't. It's still taboo. We're getting better, but it's still taboo.
right. And people who go through emotional and physical abuse sometimes will say, like I've had women say, the emotional abuse was worse
Yeah.
because the physical abuse, those wounds will heal, but
Mm-hmm.
the emotional abuse you take with you everywhere you go. It makes you question your value. It makes you
Mm-hmm.
question it lowers your self-esteem, and those things play out in every situation. You can't just turn that on and off like a light switch.
Yeah.
And I've heard women say that. I would, they
And I know you say women because you work with a lot of women, but we know men
both ways.
experience it too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, we don't take emotional abuse as serious, but we do, because this is debilitating behavior that just kind of destroys people. I mean, it makes them, once they have left the narcissist, they are still that damaged person who the narcissist tried to destroy. So
Mm-hmm.
they are left to rebuild their life and rebuild their self-esteem, while the narcissist likely has gone on to find the new supply, which you brought up right before the break. And that is someone who is basically a new victim for them. It's that person who thinks they're so awesome, and in the beginning they're going to compliment them and tell them all the what they need. um, and narcissists need that supply. And
Mm-hmm.
so once they leave a relationship where, I don't need you anymore because you don't give me the supply that I need, you question me, you challenge me, I don't got time for that. They find someone else who doesn't know their story.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a meme the other day that said something about, when people break up, you can tell a narcissist by them running to someone new, um, who just doesn't know their BS.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens frequently when you leave a narcissist. They either had somebody already or they have somebody quickly, because they cannot stand to be alone, cannot stand to just be by themselves, because that's a reminder of something's not right with me.
And they cannot stand not having that supply that's given to them. And the thing is, you were talking about when people leave, they they are still damaged, and but what about the folks that don't leave? These are the folks that can't get out of bed, can't function, and are just mentally bruised and exhausted, um and don't understand why.
Right. Yeah. And that's why, getting help and having some support and really being educated about what this looks like is so important, because again, it'll help bring you out of that self-doubt. It'll
Yeah.
help bring you out of that, I am the reason for this. It will help build your self-esteem. You'll hear other people that have gone through it and recovered from it, and then that brings you hope. Maybe I can do this too. This
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be my life for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and that's what I want people to know. You can recover, you can be healthy again. And yes, from the reading that I've done and the research that I've done, it's a long road to recovery, to mental recovery coming out of a narcissistic relationship. I think, one of the things is it's probably hard for people to even understand how did I get there?
Yes.
Yes. Like,
Yes.
how did I make it okay for someone to treat me this way? I knew it didn't feel good the first time something happened, right? But I was already emotionally
Yeah.
attached,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wanted to make it work.
Yep. And if you don't mind, Dr. Shaw, after this break, I would like to speak from some personal experience to kind of address that question that you just brought up. And I'm hoping that that will help people realize that it can happen to anybody. I consider myself an educated woman. I'm in mental health, and I still have a very, very close personal experience with this. So I will share that after the break.
Well, we appreciate that. Dr. West's story when we come back from break. We will be right back on 94.7 FM. Stay with us. And we're back on the Gospel Giant, 94.7 FM. I am here with my co-host, Dr. Nicole West. I am so happy to have her on board here at Doctor to Doctor in the chat room. So we are going to hear a little bit about Dr. West's personal experience, being in that relationship, what she experienced getting out of that relationship, and what life is like after having been in that relationship, because you have a child as a result of that relationship. So let's talk about it and give them a clear picture of what this looks like.
Okay. So, one of the things that we haven't brought up yet is what these relationships look like in the beginning. And there's a term for it. It's called love bombing.
Yes.
And these people with these traits or with this disorder will make you feel amazing in the beginning. They shower you with compliments. They spend time. They don't miss anything. They listen intently. They do everything that they need to do to appear like they are completely vested in you and in the relationship. And it will feel like nothing you've ever experienced. And they have a keen sense of what you need, and they give it to you. They study you. These people are very smart. They are not, these people are intelligent, but they will study you, and they will get to know what it is that you like, what makes you tick, and then they make sure to provide it to you. So you feel like, man, this person listens. This person is attentive. This is the man that God sent me, which is how I felt in the beginning, because I hadn't had anything close to that before, and it just felt amazing. But after the love bombing phase, which is basically when they've got you, because you have put all your everything into this, because again, they're doing everything that you wanted, a mate to do. After that phase, and it can last a while, but what I want people to know and to be cognizant of is it moves really fast. Typically, these people move super quick. And I'll tell you from experience, I got engaged in 6 months to this man.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get married for a year and a half, but I accepted a proposal in 6 months.
Yeah.
That goes to show you how amazing these people pretend to be, and two, how easy it is to get caught up and fooled by it, which I did. So after the love bombing phase, then there is typically the devaluation phase. And that's where they might make you start questioning yourself. That's where a lot of gaslighting happens. That's where, for me, it was a lot of questioning my career path. I had by that time married a physician, and he was very, sure of himself. He made a lot of money, so that piled on his narcissism, his feelings about himself.
His
Um,
ego. Mhm.
yes, and there was a lot of, you sure you want to do that job? Why don't you do this? A lot of questioning things that I had already decided I wanted for myself prior to even meeting him. And I will say, because of the woman who raised me, I'm very strong in what I know, and I know what I know, but I still got sucked into it. I did not decide to change my career field because that's what I wanted to do. However, there were attempts to devalue what I had chosen to do. Sometimes there were, when I went to get my PhD, we had friends that would say, "Oh, there's going to be two doctors in the house," and he would kind of snicker and go, not really, because I wasn't a medical doctor. So that is another form of devaluing what I had decided to do with my life. And I didn't even notice it while we were going through this. I had no idea. I knew something was off. I knew something wasn't right, but I
But do
couldn't.
you know how many men and women there are that did not follow through on their goals and their plans in their lives because of what somebody said to them and because they got caught up? Do you realize how it's probably the number is probably astronomical?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's what they want, because they have to make you understand that you are actually beneath them. You are not on the same level. They may not come out and tell you that, but their actions, the things that the conversations y'all have, if you feel like there's an attempt to make you feel a little bit less than, it's real. You are experiencing that, because that is what they are intentionally doing without saying it. So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of devaluing of what I wanted, my thoughts, my opinions about things. And again, I consider myself to be a smart woman, and I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't actually know I was married to someone, a narcissist, until after we got divorced. Um, and so now on the other side of it,
Before you move to the other side,
mhm.
what what were your feelings during this? I mean, what kinds of things were you um struggling with? How did you survive it? What
So I will say that I did just that. I survived it. Um, I went into self protection mode, and I had a baby. He's 6 years old now, and so I focused all my attention on him and mothering him, and that allowed me to kind of not focus on what I knew was wrong with my marriage. Um, and I even got devalued in that aspect of being a mother. I never got a whole lot of credit for the things that I had done with our son. I taught him how to ride a bike without training wheels at 3. He was in all kinds of sport. I mean, this boy's played basketball, track, soccer, baseball, everything you can think of before the age of 6. And that was all, because his mom researched those things. Um, I was taking care of him at home, taking him to school, picking him up from school, doing academic things at home so he could be enriched academically, spending time with him, taking him to museums, doing this, doing that. And there was still no validation for that. In fact, there was a comment made that you have an easy life. All you do is go to school full time, work part time, take care of the house, take care of our child, and take care of me. That's all you do. That seems like a lot to me. But it was devalued. It was another form of making me feel less than. And so all I did was survive, I think. And I'll be very transparent. Now that I look back on it, put on a lot of weight in that marriage because I was just surviving. And again, didn't realize it until I was out that, oh my goodness, I've become a completely different person. I don't even recognize myself.
Do you feel like you were in constant fight or flight mode?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And what about the gray rocking? We didn't talk about the gray rock. Talk about that before you move to the other side.
Okay, so gray rocking is a technique to utilize when you are dealing with somebody with these types of traits, and it's really meant to not give them anything, not give them any supply, not give them any attention, because that's what they're craving. They will pull you into these conversations or these situations that make you defend yourself or that make you explain yourself. And gray rocking is simply responding with no emotion, um, not being dramatic, not going over and above to try to appease them. It is just straight facts. I'll be there at 3 o'clock. We can meet at such and such place. It is not the going back and forth that they want, that they need. Because when they see you getting all, riled up, that does something for them.
That's apply.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
need it. And when you say I'm not doing that, oh, it drives them crazy. And that's where you might see that narcissistic rage that Dr. Romney was talking about. What do you mean you're not going to respond to me in the way that I want you to respond to me?
Yeah.
And so yeah, gray rocking is really just trying to if you have to be part of the situation, it is just giving them the bare minimum of your energy because they require all of it and you don't have to give it to them.
And if you give them no energy or the bare minimum, they will probably walk away from you because they, like you said, they need so much more and they will probably walk away from you. What was it like leaving the relationship? And since, because you were actually married since the divorce, let's go to the other side. But what was it like trying to get out and leaving? I hate to say getting out, but that's kind of what it is.
That's what it was. It was the need to get out. Once I realized that I needed to get out because my needs were not being met and they were never going to be met, um, it was hard. There was a lot of blaming on my part, no accountability for anything that had happened on his part, and there was cheating and there was devaluing and financial abuse. There was a lot of stuff on his part that there was never any accountability for. One of the other things that you will notice when you try to leave is um, they will not give you any kind of closure. They won't answer any kind of questions about what happened, what could we have done differently, how did we get here. They won't give you any closure. They want you to be constantly confused. They want to sow all types of not understanding the situation because then you might continue to blame yourself because you have no concrete answers about what happened, and they want that. They will leave you with things up in the air because that does something for them. It's control. That's what it is. Control. And so that a lot of that happened. There was a lot of me needing answers for closure, and I had to find closure on my own because he wasn't going to give it to me. There was a lot of rage. How dare you leave me? Right? I'm this doctor, this black doctor. I mean, let's talk about it. It's not a lot of them, right? Um, how dare you leave me? You have this this big house, this nice car. You get to go back to school, do what you want. What else is there? He literally said that to me. You can't have it all, is what the words were. So there is that grandiose feeling when you try to leave them that they unravel because you are touching that part of their emotion that was in childhood. Again, when somebody did not come to them when they needed them, somebody told them you weren't worthy, you leaving them as an adult is touching that part again. And they do not like that. And they will rage and they will make you feel, try to make you feel worse than what they're feeling at that time. So
Did you need closure?
I did in the beginning, but then I realized after asking for it so many times and being told, "Oh, we'll talk about it when I'm ready." And then a year goes by, and if it's brought up again, the response is, "Oh, I'm over that. I don't need to talk about that no more."
So I don't know how we missed talking about control, because control is so huge, and it could be like the smallest thing. It could be
Mhm.
like, um which not are we going to McDonald's, but which one we go
Yeah,
to. We
yeah,
have to go to the one you chose, right? It's just crazy petty type stuff.
it is worse
Um
than everything they do.
yeah. Co-parenting. You have to co-parent. What has
Yeah,
that been like? And one thing that we talked about earlier, you and I have had some conversations. I know one of the things that you have to do is you have to be careful about how you communicate.
yeah,
Like you have to have things in writing. Remember, we were talking about recording conversations.
yeah.
So I know that's one of the things that you've experienced.
Yes. At this point, there are no phone conversations had because I need things in writing where I can go back and have proof. And sometimes the phone conversations you can't record on certain phones, and in certain states you can't record. So I just eliminate it. I don't dial his phone number. I don't answer calls if he calls me. We need to strictly communicate via writing. So email, text. There's also some apps. One is called My Family Wizard, where if you both download it, there is a feature where you can text in there, you can email from there, and it will save everything. Um, in the event that you need to go to court, you can print these things out. You can send them to your lawyer. And it so you can also load your child's schedule in there, so y'all don't even have to talk. So and so has a game at 5 o'clock on Thursday, and it shows up in the app, and y'all don't even have to communicate. One of the really most talked about strategies in recovering is going no contact with the narcissist. And if you can, then that's what you need to do. But of course, if you have children, you can't do that. But you need to limit it to only the contact you absolutely have to have, because
Yeah.
these people suck you in every chance they get. And they will just make you repeat the cycle over and over again. And then you banging your head against the wall, like, why do I keep dealing with this?
And then you're not healthy enough to move forward with your life. You end up bringing somebody else in on your mental chaos
Yes.
because you
Yeah,
weren't ready. Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So just give us some final thoughts as we start thinking about going to coming to a close here today. Some takeaways for our audience.
Um, so some big ones that I can think of right now are, um, just be aware of the red flags that we talked about. When you experience them in the beginning, just run. Don't question whether it is. Just assume it is, because it likely is. I mean, we're not we know when we experience the red flags, and we know when we make excuses for people. So the best way to not get into a narcissistic relationship is to not get into a narcissistic relationship. So
Yeah,
if you notice those red flags in the beginning, was it Oprah who said, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time?
Maya Angelou. Yeah.
Do that, because Maya Angelou. Yes, that's right. So yeah, just be aware of the red flags, and if you experience them, just take them for what they are and move on. And if you are already in one, like you, Dr. Shaw, were saying earlier, do your best not to personalize everything, because it's not about you. Everything is about them, and what they need, and don't take any of it personal. And then the last thought that I have is reach out, get help, get some support. Look up Dr. Romney. I promise you, she will explain things in a way that makes so much sense. And she will answer so many of your questions. I feel like she's almost my personal therapist, and I've never even met the lady.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, me too.
just get some support. Get some support would be my last takeaway.
Well, guys, you heard it here. I'm so glad we had this discussion. I do hope it has helped someone. And we are going to continue this discussion in one of our future segments. But for right now, I hope that the information you've heard here today has been helpful to you. If you are the narcissist, you can get help. If you are in a narcissistic relationship, you can get out and you can get help. So remember that. And remember to come back here with Dr. Nicole West and I on next Saturday at the same time, same place. We will see you then right here on the Gospel Giant 94.7 FM.